Hey, thanks for staying tuned. As you know, this is a spotlight on jazz, and I thought, well, who do you really need to meet up close and personal on the television? Well, Chris Walker himself from the Chris Walker Swingtet. So thank you so much for coming by. I do appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah. So I have been preparing for this conversation by watching the Benny Goodman Story on television.
Oh, well, that's it.
That's your film, right?
It's my film in as much that it came out in 1956 originally, and I went and saw it at our local cinema in the UK, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, twice on the Saturday, the afternoon and evening, and then on the Sunday there was an advert in the local paper for a second-hand clarinet for sale, and we bought it on the Sunday. And
we being Mom and Dad and you.
My dad, and in those days he paid for it, and I had to pay him half back over the next 12 months. So yeah.
And how old were you?
No, 15.
Oh, okay.
I'd
so
played
you're
the
old
recorder.
enough to know that you wanted to do it.
Oh yeah, I'd played the recorder in the school band since I was about 9. And to me a clarinet was very much like a recorder.
Right.
Except that when you get one, it isn't quite that easy.
You know, Chris, I have to apologize. I don't know what a recorder is.
A recorder's like it has a whistle on the end, but you play it with fingers, like a penny whistle.
Right.
You know, like a flute type thing, really.
Okay.
Only played that way.
Okay.
Whistle and fingers with holes in it.
Oh, I remember when we used to have them. There was a little slide thing on it.
No, that's a slide whistle. No, this just has holes on it. And that's what we started with the school. It was called a recorder band. Right. And then the clarinet works much the same way, except of course you've got to master the reed and getting a note out of that.
Sure. So when you bought this used or second-hand clarinet, could you play it right away?
No.
No. Did you try?
I squeaked. I still squeak.
So how much time, from the time you purchased it and the time you actually put it in your mouth, how much time elapsed?
You've got to be talking probably 5 or 6 months, maybe.
No, from the time you bought it and the time you put it to your lips, did you?
Oh, the next day. And
the next
squeaked
day.
straight away. You
Oh,
know,
okay,
and
good.
then started taking lessons.
Okay, so you squeaked for 6 months.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. But you never stop learning.
No.
I mean, you whatever you do, however far you go, there's always someone else up there.
Sure.
And you listen.
Well, so what was it? What was it that attracted you? The music, the instrument itself?
I think originally it was the fact that Benny Goodman, in all of that film, stands in front of the band wearing a white coloured jacket, and all the guys are in black jackets, aren't they? You know, and I thought, I like that. But in fact, in my entire life, I've never worn a different coloured jacket to the rest of the guys in the band.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm one of the guys.
So you like the idea of having a jacket?
I think that was the original idea.
And come on, fess up, it's not because he got the girl.
Well, I got the girl too.
Yeah, you did. And she's on board, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Very pleased.
So what was the first song you learned?
Well, the first song I tried to learn was a tune called Memories of You, which Benny plays in the Benny Goodman Story. It's his way of proposing to his future wife, and it's a lovely song written by a gentleman called Eubie Blake.
Right.
And it's just a great melody, and I wanted to learn to play that one particularly.
Right.
And it's still in the repertoire today.
Okay, then what came next? Then you started learning the clarinet. You were playing in a school band.
Yeah, well, I think I was sort of beginning to leave school then, and it was down to the church youth club. And in those days in Britain, there was a big sort of Dixieland jazz revival, and all the youth clubs had their own jazz bands, and you start playing with those, and then get into a better one and a better one. Then someone asks to book you for a dance, and so you start getting a little bit of money for it, and away you go. Yeah.
And you know, thinking about dancing, when you were, he was just in my office before we came up, and the film was on the television that was in my office. And the thing for me that was interesting in watching this film, bits and pieces of it, is for me, it's, how do you say, reprisal music, kind of.
Yeah.
You know, it was popular before I was born.
Yes, oh yeah.
And so for me, it's oldsters music. But then watching the film, I realized that that was just a really hot music. And you said, do you remember what you said?
Not exactly. Go on.
Okay. You said, and this really struck me, was that jazz started to
it's dance music.
It was dance music, and the minute you stopped moving your feet to the music and it became a head music,
that's
then the
my
industry
opinion.
changed, and that's when rock and roll came along.
Yeah. yeah.
Because the dancers needed something to dance to.
Dancers got to have some music to dance to, and
Right.
jazz, when it started in New Orleans, it played in dance halls, and people
Right.
danced to it.
Right.
And then I guess after Prohibition ended in the early 1930s, people wanted to go to bigger ballrooms,
Right.
so we had bigger bands, and the swing era came along, and they
Right.
all turned out. And we're talking about the teenagers now, aren't we, of
Right.
that time?
Right.
And they danced to it, and they loved it. And people like Benny Goodman and those sort of guys were the pop stars of the day.
Right.
And particularly like the dances up in Harlem and all that, you know.
Right.
And it's great dancing as well.
Right.
And then I think it started to sort of progress, and it became a little bit intellectual, and it became a sort of head music. And then it stopped people tapping their feet a little bit, and that's when the dancers, I think, picked up onto rock and roll and
Sure.
carried on from there.
And you know, that makes sense, because when you look at it, if you look in the early days of Elvis, he said he pulled a lot from the Gospels.
Oh, absolutely.
But he pulled a lot from the jazz.
Yeah.
And the big bands, and those were his influences. And of
Yeah.
course, Elvis was an explosion, and then the Beatles exploded, and then the Rolling Stones
And away you go.
contemporaneously,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
away you go, and
Yeah.
then it brings us
Yeah.
up to today.
Yeah.
You know, it was interesting that there's, for me, I love the jazz, and I love the jazz that you can dance to.
Yep.
And whether you know those dance steps or not, you do find yourself wanting to just tap your feet and move your body to the music.
Well, I was giving that Benny Goodman talk, and I was looking around the audience while the discs are playing, and you can see all the feet patting, and you think, we're getting through to them.
Sure, yeah,
That's it.
exactly, and that makes a difference. Because that too is part of making music as a musician, or any entertainer for that matter. You do it for the expression of yourself, but you do it as a gift to other people, and then if the people receive it, that's when you get that double energy flow.
It's a
where
two-way
it goes from
conversation.
you to it's a two-way conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a
you
great
can't,
way
you
of putting
can't
it.
play jazz in a vacuum.
No,
Definitely not.
no, you
Yeah,
can't.
it's good fun.
So let's talk about the Chris Walker Swing Tet, or the Chris Walker Band. Which do you
Right.
prefer? I've been calling you both.
I call it a swing tet because I think it describes what we do. We're a band that sort of play music from what we call in England, we call it the Great American Songbook. And it's all those lovely tunes that everyone knows and remembers. And swing tet is a good name because it sums up what we
it
do.
is that you do.
So that's the correct name. But we've been going for 18 years now, and playing around southern England. We've done several cruises for various cruise lines, and we play festivals. And when we get back to England, we've got several jazz festivals coming up throughout the summer. We have a very important royal wedding we're playing at before the end of June.
Oh, tell me about that.
Lord Montagu's son. Lord Montagu is of Bewley, is one of Britain's aristocracy, and he's best known in England for his motor museum. He has this huge collection of old
Motor cars.
motor cars and things like that. And his son is getting married, and he wants a 1930s style to his wedding.
Right.
And so he's picked our band to come along and do it for him.
Oh, that's great. Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Of course.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah. How the band has been together for 18 years. When before its inception, did you kind of follow in Benny Goodman's footsteps, and that he says, "Okay, I want to make a band," or how did the band come about?
I played in sort of Dixieland bands, really, but the opportunity came really when a local jazz society asked me to do a Sunday lunchtime session.
Right.
And I said, well, I'm not really keen on Sunday lunchtime sessions. And they said, well, if we made it special. So I said, yeah, well, you make it special for me, I'll do that. Well, what would you call special? So I said, well, I'd never played in that sort of Benny Goodman lineup, like the Benny Goodman Quartet, with a vibraphone and a piano.
Right.
And they found the guys. And we did this one Sunday lunchtime session, and we all said, hey, that worked pretty good.
That was fun.
Yeah, let's try and keep it together. And that's what we've done. Unfortunately, the vibraphone player died about 5 years ago, and so now we have a guitar player, which is basically what Benny did when Lionel Hampton left him. So we're continuing the tradition, really.
Well, there you go. You're following in the master's footsteps, if you will.
Yeah, a few paces behind, I have to say.
Well, that's okay. I mean, he was the one that originated
Oh,
it,
sure.
but, you know,
yeah.
that's a little bit about how the music just keeps going on and on and on.
It'll go on as long as musicians want to play it, and as long as people want to listen. I think what we need to do now is to get more youngsters involved. At the moment, it seems that it's being played by older players to older audiences, and I would love to see the young kids. Anything we can do to get it into the universities and keep it alive.
Well, you know, I think too, it goes back to when you when you go through the motions of anything, then you can recreate something. But so much of that music, or Benny Goodman himself, there was so much passion behind it.
Oh, sure.
That the audience responded to that passion.
Yeah.
And so I think, too, if it is going to become a reprisal music, or, you know, reincarnate itself, if you will, then it's got to be done by people that are passionate about it. But you can look at some of the crooners, like Harry Connick Jr., for example, and he had the passion for that, and he's brought it back around.
Absolutely right.
You know, and there's certainly other crooners that are making that a popular kind of music for people that never heard it back then.
Sure.
Or they've never heard the rewind. So, I mean,
right.
it's certainly possible.
It's the energy. You say passion. I use the word energy. If a band gives out energy, you tend to get back energy from an audience.
Sure.
And that, to me, is the important thing. If there's a buzz around the room when you finish the evening, that's what I like to hear.
Yeah. Then you know. Then you know you've done it.
Then you've
hit
it.
the
Yeah,
pocket.
that's right.
Yeah. Well, listen. What words of wisdom would you give our younger guests that perhaps would look at it and go, "Oh, that's old folks' music. It's not for me at all." What words of wisdom would you give them to learn to appreciate the music?
Well, just to listen. I think the problem with music for me these days is that so many people listen with their eyes rather than their ears. And one of the tests that I was told years ago is close your eyes and just listen with your ears, and you suddenly realise that there's a lot more depth to music.
Sure.
The reason I got involved in jazz was because I found myself going out every week and buying pop records at one time, and I would play them for like a week, and then they'd go away on the shelf and never be played again.
Right.
And then someone introduced me to a jazz record, Benny Goodman or whatever, and you play that, and every time you play it, you can hear something new in there. And that first jazz record is still in my record collection.
Oh, is it?
50 years later, right?
In the CD version.
Yeah, oh, sure, but yeah, right. But the fact is that to me is very good value for money.
Right.
Much better value than a pop record.
Sure, that makes sense.
So you know, be mean.
Be mean. Let's talk about. Let's see. What do you have coming up? We've got one more big show at 9:45.
That's right. We're doing a hats off to the Duke, which is Duke Ellington and some of the small groups associated with Duke Ellington.
Right.
We've got the Tommy Dorsey talk, about which will be all about the life of Tommy and Jimmy Dorsey.
Right.
Some lunchtime, some evening sessions, and an afternoon tea dance.
Yeah. Well, we've got an afternoon tea dance coming up. So, for those of you that don't want to stay up late for the evening jam sessions, we've got something for you. It's the tea dance. It'll be, well, check your daily passages. It's not confirmed yet which date that is.
That's right.
But that'll be in for a tea dance,
Looking
and I think
forward.
that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Can I mention we've got some CDs on board?
I think you ought to, and
We've got
I'll
some
even do
CDs
it
on
for
board.
you. Yes, some CDs on board. And let's see, you can get them in the gift shop.
Absolutely.
And then I think what we'll set up for you is that after one of these sessions, or perhaps let's just say all the sessions, whether it's a jam session or a tea dance, then you're willing to sign them afterwards?
Sure.
So,
Anything.
You know? And
Come
I'm
along and enjoy
sure-
the music.
Yeah. First of all, enjoy the music, and then second of all, take that music home with you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, listen, thanks so much for stopping by. I do
Thank you,
appreciate it. Now that you know what he looks like a little up close and personal, don't be afraid to stop him and have a chat or two.
Buy me a drink.
Yes. Buy him a drink, or make him buy you the drink. Oh!
Right.
Whatever, just sit down and make a connection together. Thank you so much. I do
you.
appreciate it. And
Thank you, Glenn.
thank you for staying tuned.